Aloha and welcome to Digits Part 5. We're adding notes to our contacts, time-stamped notes. Um, the idea is we're going to have to store these notes in the database, and so this is a good start to talk about data models. So what you have is the idea that each object, each row in a table has a primary key, a unique key for that table, and they are unique as in the sense that no primary key can be the same in that table. So in our example of our users table, we have a primary key, the ID, and the schema, Prisma will make sure that it's auto increment, so it will always never be the same as the previous one. And then we can add the unique key to say that the email string also needs to be unique. So if you try to insert another another user with an email of admin@foo.com, Postgres won't allow it because it's unique. Now, when we take a look at the context table, we're adding the owner text in here. We could add a key that says owner ID and refer to the primary key of the users table, but it's also easier to just put in the string for the email and we can look it up. So that allows us to say who has what contact by saying John has the first two contacts and admin has the next two contacts. And then when we create our notes table, we guarantee that each note has only one contact by having the contact ID in the table, so that it says that you can only have a note for a single contact. You can have multiple notes for the same contact, but you can't have the same note in multiple contacts. But we add the owner field so that we can easily query the database. So for example, the first note is based upon contact 4, which is Philip. The second note is for Kim, and the third note is for Scott. This is a form of denormalization that some people say in databases this should be fully normalized, but we are not making it fully normalized to make our queries simpler. So if you want to say what are all the notes for John, you can query and get all the notes for John, and you'll know there's only one, and that's what we're going to be doing as we go in for adding notes to our digits project. So we want to start up by merging in our contact forms branch into main, and I have done that. I've updated main. We'll run, and I have got it running here. And then we can check to see that we have the add contact form is there, and we can edit. So we have the forms done. So it is up to date, and we're on main. We're on the main branch. So now let's take a look at the WAD. So I'm going to start my timer. How far down is it? And then we're going to create a branch called Notes1. Publish the branch. And then we want to make sure that we are in the notes branch. Good. So now we want to create the notes table and update the contact so that it has an array of notes, or a conceptually array of notes. So what we want to do is edit our schema and add a model. And I'm just going to copy this. So it has a contact ID in it. That's a column in the table. And this contact is saying that we're referring to the contact model. It's a relationship that says the contact ID is going to reference the ID of the contact. And then we want to add our notes. Oh, this should be notes. Right, so now this is the array of notes in our, conceptually our array of notes. So each contact has 0 or more notes in it, potentially. And a note has the contact ID, the note, the actual string, who owns it, and when it is created. So we have our time-stamped notes. So we did that. Now we want to create our migration to update the database. So npx Prisma migrate dev name note. So that's going to create the migration. It's going to create the table in the database. So we need to update or refresh. So here's our note table. And we see we've got our primary key, which is an ID. It's an integer. This is the contact ID. So that's how we link the note to a contact. Here's the actual text of the note, the owner who owns the note, and then the timestamp of when the note was created. So we've got that. So now we want to create the note item component that will be added to the contact card and the contact card admin. So let's make a copy of the note item, or create a note item in a component. So it's actually very simple. Let's copy that, rename it to note item. And it's going to be basically a list group item in the list group, the Bootstrap list group. So it's going to be rendered as an item, sort of like these are right here. But we're going to make it a flush list group to make it without the borders. So now let's go into our, so it's not a contact card. We are going to be given a contact, and that's all we really need. And then, actually, we're going to give it a note. We're going to get a note. This is a note. 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 Come on. So given a note, we're going to create a note item. It's not going to be a card. Note item. And then what we want to do is return the list item, but we need to import list group from React Bootstrap. And since we don't have the link, we don't need the link. note. See the contact card. Okay, now we want to update the contact card and contact card admin to have a second parameter. So we're going to pass in the array of notes for the contact card that we're going to get out of the database for both the contact card and the contact card admin. So we need to go contact card. We're going to pass in another parameter, and that other parameter is a note array. And we're going to get our note from the client. So notes is not being used. So in here, in the body, we want to loop over the notes. So we want to create a list group above the edit link. So above the edit in the body. So we need to get the list group from Bootstrap. And the import note item from at components note item. So we're going to create that. The key is going to be the ID of the note, since they're all unique. We make it flush so that that gets rid of the border. And then we can, I need to do the same thing for admin. We're going to have our comment notes. And then before the owner, I'm going to do it before the owner. List group. Import note item from note item. And then I can run dev. Okay. So now we need to actually update the contact to pass in the notes. I think we can look at reload. So again, because I did not pass in anything for the notes, I get an error when I try to look at my contact card. Because notes is undefined, you can't call map on undefined. So let's fix that. So we need to update the list page and eventually the admin page. So we can update both. So update list page to get the notes associated with the current user. So list page. So we've got the owner is the current person, so we want to get a const notes equals await find many where the owner. So those are the notes for that are owned by the currently logged in person. So we want to pass in the notes, right? So the contact card has a key of index, contact is contact. With the notes, we're going to filter, because those are all the notes for this user, but we only want to pass the ones for this contact, right? So that we have a contact ID, and we want to say the note ID, or the note contact ID is the same for the contact, right? So we want to say, what is the note for this contact? And we only pass those into the contact card. And then we now also have, we don't want that, contact. We now are going to get contact from the client. So now we're actually are passing in an array, and if we want to be silly, we can comma notes, and let's, there we go, we got it. We refresh the screen, and you can see where we've got contacts is got 2 items, but we don't have any notes. That's correct, because there are no notes in the database. We haven't created any notes. So John doesn't have any notes. So let's take that out. So now we've got, since we get all the notes for the currently logged in user, we can then filter them to pass them into the contact card. And there is no, if we go back to the thing, there's a little extra space here for the, if we inspect this, you can see that in the card body, that's where we have it, we have this list group. There's the list of, or the list group of all the notes. And since we don't have any, it's basically empty. But it is there. It exists. It's just an empty div at this point because we don't have any notes. So now we want to implement the add note form, or add note. So we want to actually first edit the DB actions to be able to create a note. So let's go take a look at the DB actions. We want to, where's my add contact? So let's do it in the add section. Async function, add note. Again, it's not going to be the full one, but it's not title. It has a note, it's a string, a owner, string, a contact ID, which is the number, and a created at, which is a date. So it's not title, this is note, note.note. That's kind of redundant. Contact owner. Note.owner. And then the created at is not that new date. Created at we say note dot created at. We don't need this parameter because when you add it, we're going to say that that's async. So we're going to take a note, which is an object that has a note, a string, an owner string, a contact ID, and we're going to add that to the thing. String, contact ID, owner, a little out of order, date, note, and we didn't need this here. The reason I don't need that there is because in the Prisma schema, the created at defaults to now. So if it wasn't supplied, we get the default time of now. So that's, I don't need to pass it in. I just need to pass in the contact ID, the note, and the owner. Okay, so now we want to add a schema for the adding a note, because we're going to use our React hook forms. So we want to go here. Let's do it add. Note, contact the owner, note, contact, or owner contact, that are all strings. Well, actually, no, this is a number, sorry. Now, we want to do create a copy of the add contact form and create it as an add note form. So again, components, add contact form. Rename it to add note form. And the data is going to be, well, this is add note schema. It's not used. This is add note. Okay, I don't think I need the row and the call, but this is add note. Data is not all that. It's going to be note is a string. Owner, wait, I already have an owner. Owner and a contact ID, which is a number. So now our data is coming in. It's a note, which is the string, contact ID, the owner, and then when I call add note, that's good. This is not an add contact form. It's a add note form. This is an add note schema. This is add note form. And then we don't need all of this stuff. So add note. But let's take a look at what that looks like. Add time-stamped note in the card. Card. We want a card header. Add timestamp note. But we don't need this. Just need one. It's a note. Note, note. 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 And then I don't need all this. And we do want, we need another hidden input for the contact ID. That's not one. I need to pass in the contact. And I need to import it. And we're going to put it down here. So that's our form. So let's add it to the contact card. After that, so now we have our form that allows us to add notes. Reload. Oh, I don't like that header. Ugh. Blah. Let's go look at this guy. Okay, so that looks good. I don't know that I even need the container. I don't want this column. I guess I don't need the row. And the corresponding, don't need you, you. Oh, where's the closing card. I do need a closing container. Let's see if that's a little bit better. Again, I'm not sure I need that much padding. Oh, they have padding too. Maybe I don't even need this. But I added some gutter. Better. Adding that second container had added some gutter to it, so it added some stuff in here. So now it aligns vertically with the text. Much better, much better. So that's looking better. So let's see if I can add a note. So I talked to Henry about taking care of my mother. It was a good conversation. So we see now we have a note, and that was on today's date. I can reset that to clear it. Should probably work on that form so that when I successfully submit the data, I could automatically reset the form. So now let's go take a look at our database. So now we say, here's the first note. Contact ID is 4, which is Henry. The note, the owner, John, because that's who I'm logged in as, and the timestamp of when the note was created. So now let's see about running lint. Container, yes, I can see how it's read there. Now it's green. That's a really nice feature of VS Code. Indicate we have lint errors. No lint errors. And then we want notes 1 finished in n minutes. In 29 minutes. I'm going to change this to contact notes. Commit, push. So I highly recommend, in fact, it's part of the assignment, is to do this again. So now that I've got my branch notes 1, I'll go back to main, create a new branch, notes 2, and then redo the thing again. I want to go back to my notes 1 branch. And you have 50 minutes to do this. I did it basically in 30 minutes. So, but I've had a lot of experience of doing this. Thank you very much. Hope this was helpful.